So NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 is done and over with, and we can finally move forward to SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. Um, but first, let's talk about, well, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. Starting out, the show started off with Austin Aries versus No Way Jose. Now, I haven't really watched NXT's taped broadcast much anymore as I used to, except the last time I saw it was between Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor, even though I knew the result was going to end with Shinsuke Nakamura winning. I had, and this was also the same day that the Cruiserweight Classic would start. Anyways, so I haven't been following much. I mostly just watch the NXT Takeover specials because I don't need to watch the NXT Take shows. Can just either look them up online since they're already spoiled to me, or I could just wait till they explain to us what happened when they do the video packages instead of through commentary exposition. So, anyways, Austin Aries and No Way Jose, I heard a lot of people don't like No Way Jose, specifically because that name just sounds fairly fucking dumb, and the gimmick is very fucking dumb, according to people. But this was my first time really seeing No Way Jose, so I had to say, I was kind of, they're doing this gimmick in NXT. Though, of course, Raleigh happens, so, at least it's not the hype machine. My god, I didn't blame the character, I just blame bad choicing. But No Way Jose seems to be taking it up a little bit more better than Mojo Rawley, and now he's on SmackDown teaming up with Zack Ryder to form the Hype Bros. Poor Zack Ryder. But Austin Aries and No Way Jose, they got actually a good match. I was hearing rumors that No Way Jose was going to get a big push shoot and possibly challenge the NXT champion soon one day, eventually this year. But and No Way Jose getting some dominant time against Austin Aries, an NXT a TNA legend, is certainly considering that. Yeah, they might do that. So Austin Aries winning the match, that didn't surprise me. Mostly because, well, I was rooting for Austin Aries because I'm more familiar with him. I told you I don't watch TNA that much, but I do know who Austin Aries is. And I wasn't really invested in the character of No Way Jose. It just seems another party animal, but not as the same level of impressiveness that Adam Rose was, or the most dislikability that Mojo Rawley was. It was more like, it's just average to me. So Austin Aries and No Way Jose, they, like I said, delivered a solid match, and Austin Aries got the victory, and well, that's all she wrote. Now we get to the debate of Ember Moon versus Billy Kay. Um, I think I said this in a previous thoughts video regarding NXT Takeover. I like how when they do the match where the debate guy or gal is obviously gonna win, and the person who's not getting any momentum is just there to put someone over. They at least give them some shots in to at least look like, oh, maybe they'll actually let the person win. I really like that. Whereas on the main roster is always squash, 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 or when they have a jobber, it just goes ineffective shots and then just immediately fall apart. So I was glad that they do this, and this match only lasted for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So this was the shortest match in NXT Takeover Brooklyn. So, and Ember Moon really surprised me. I thought mostly for two things. One is the red eye she has, the contact lenses most likely. Red eye she has kind of gives her that moon persona and the mystery factor. And the second one was the a turnbuckle stunner she did, where she jumped off the turnbuckle and did a stunner, and that was like, oh my god, that's wow! I haven't seen wow, never seen that before. I'm pretty sure they did it in the indies, but I've never seen it in a mainstream thing. But Ember Moon, she was really impressive. I really liked her. I can't wait to see what she does next, and especially, um, I also kind of think Asuka and her could probably do a good match together since they're both raging psychotics. because Ember Moon has those piercing eyes and sadistic smile, while Asuka is just overall sadistic. And I really like they gave Billie Kay um, some screen time, some interview time to develop her character, where she's this overcocky wrestler who wants the NXT Women's title, but her ego has cost her greatly. Gee, if only that happened to Cena or Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan got fired, so that's a completely different subject altogether, which I will never talk about in this video for a variety of reasons. So Ember Moon defeats Billie Kay through an impressive stunner. I can't wait what she's gonna do in NXT, and and with the creative team that NXT usually has, it's gonna be awesome. Now we get Bobby Roode versus Andrade Cien Almas. This surprised me a bit. Not if the match was good or not. I'll get to that in a moment. It's more like, well, I thought for sure the guy that when a guy debates, they just give him Ty Dillinger. So to not see Ty Dillinger in this special for the first time, and God knows how many specials, was kind of weird. Like, I wanted to hear 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 because he's just so popular. Like, they could be planning some big push for him, but WWE seems content with just giving him that jobber status as a big persona. I think he got injured. I'm not 100% certain. It's been a while, so I could be wrong. But Bobby Roode descended down the arena floor with this big stage and this big song, Glorious Domination, and I was immediately hooked onto it. I've been listening to it nonstop for the last hour or so during this NXT special, though I stopped a few times during the matches. But Bobby Roode was just awesome as the arrogant heel. Back to Austin Aries. I liked how he goes from the cowardly heel to the dangerous heel, the aggressive in the match against No Way Jose. That's a big highlight for me. But ultimately, Bobby Roode played this arrogant heel to perfection, and I loved how they kept all his TNA career a bit mentioning. They don't mention TNA or his championship world run as the longest reigning TNA world champion because, well, WWE doesn't like to talk about TNA except Stone Cold on the podcast with AJ Styles, which surprised me that they went there. Well, sort of, but Bobby Roode's persona, the ego, the it factor gimmick really stuck with me, really stuck with him, and well, I can see why. Like, everything he does was just great. He's just so fun, and even though he's bashing the city of Brooklyn, the place of Brooklyn, the audience just can't help but cheer Bobby Roode's name. So he's that heel. Like, I'm pretty sure he can probably get people to hate him on the casual audience side in WWE main rosterville, but ultimately, in NXT, he's going to be cheered no matter what. The only heels I can think of off the top of my head that have ever gotten over as a heel, as an actual heel, as someone that fans booed, would be Seth Rollins, Bo Dallas, and Kevin Owens. Those three are the top three heels, in my opinion, of NXT. Though Seth Rollins turned heel when he made his main roster debut, and then he came back to NXT for a bit, since he was still NXT champion at the time, but he had the Shield's back, but he had the Shield behind him, so I can see why. But ultimately, Bo Dallas and Kevin Owens were the dominant heels because Bo Dallas had this look of like, I want to punch him in the face. He just has that weird smile on his face, and Kevin Owens is, well, Kevin Owens. Like, there's no word to describe him. He's just Kevin Owens. He's awesome. So to see him still act like that on the main roster is certainly awesome. Now we get to the match that many people consider stole the show, and one person even went so far will steal the weekend of wrestling. The Revival versus Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, who I heard is going to get a tag team name soon. I was thinking they were going to debate it tonight, at the time of this video at NXT TakeOver, but they didn't. But this was a really great back and forth match. Like the Revival was the aggressors. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa worked well off each other as tag team partners, and they kind of break the cliches of tag team matches a lot. Like NXT tends to do that and try to do something new and different. Like they did some cliches, like the heels obviously cheating sometimes, like putting the foot over the rope when the guy's about to lose. But there were moments where I thought the match was gonna end and then it didn't. And like, okay, like when I think it was Johnny Gargano, I could be wrong, had one of the Revival members locked in a submission, and Tommaso Ciampa is stopping the other member of the Revival to rescue his partner, but ultimately he doesn't tap out. He because the Revival guy goes ahead, breaks the hold, and stomps on Johnny Gargano to break the submission. And normally you expect the opposite. Like the guy's held down, he can't get to his partner. The partner taps out, and the team wins. That's usually what happens on the main roster. So the fact that it didn't happen shows, yeah, we don't want to do things the main roster way. We want to do it our way. So to see that something different is actually awesome. Like the tag team division in NXT is just great. They tend to do everything innovative, try to do anything different from the main roster. Though ultimately, that's like saying NXT's roster is much more diverse and more complex than the main roster. Like they both have great talented athletes, but you know WWE's formula, and you would expect, oh well, NXT is the developmental center. We're gonna expect the same thing, but on a smaller scale. No, we get something different. Like the presentation, different. Pyro, that's non-existent. Like it's like ECW, but with a higher budget, or Ring of Honor with a higher budget. And some people, with all the TNA guys, people could call this TNA 2.0. But the Revival and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they absolutely killed it in this match. And I was also thinking at the end when the Revival won, I was thinking, yeah, Tommaso Ciampa could have went for the ring rope. He was absolutely close. But like that was the one problem I had with the match, the fact that he was really close to the ropes and he could have went for it. I'm like, if they had done where one of the Revival members are blocking, where the referee's on the other side behind the ropes, trying to see him, and one of the Revivals are pulling the ring ropes away, that would have made more sense. But ultimately, they didn't do that. So that kind of made for a little bit weak and illogical finish. And this was just a one time thing, so I hope it doesn't repeat itself in the future because I can't afford NXT to embrace WWE logic. And then at the end, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa are embracing, and I'm like, are they? Is one of them gonna turn? Because it looked like one of them was gonna turn, and they didn't, and I was like, oh thank God! Like, especially since this takes place after the Cruiserweight Classic match they had, which was awesome. But I was thinking with the frustration Johnny Gargano was having at that moment and building up stuff, I thought for sure, like, and all that doubt regarding the teamwork, I thought for sure they were going to do a turn, and, well, they didn't, so I was glad about that. So I hope they win the tag team titles later down the road before moving to the main roster because they certainly deserve it. Though Enzo Amore and Big Cass never won the tag team titles and they moved up to the main roster, which bugged me a bit, but I was hoping, oh, they're going to break the New Day's record, which is not the case right now. So now we get to the first main event, Asuka versus Bayley. Bayley gets his entrance, gets a pop, and everyone loves her. Kind of obvious. She's a female John Cena, but much better and more likable and not egotistical. And we got Asuka, the crazed Japanese wrestler. And they keep bringing up her undefeated streak she's had. And, like, I keep forgetting, oh, wait, yeah, she's undefeated. Like, are they trying to build up their own female Goldberg to an extent? But this version is trying to be more athletic, which is obviously the case. But like, I'm worried, like if they don't develop her character more, what's gonna happen when she loses? I'm a little worried about that. Like, she can't keep doing that disturbing smile forever, even though it's awesome. But Asuka played very great. She was acting like a heel, but she was constantly getting cheered, and she was clearly a face, including Bailey. And when I bring up Asuka being a face, I'm like, wow, that's like making Kevin Owens a face. It could work, but they thrive more as a villain. But Asuka, well, I was really, really looking forward to this match. Asuka and Bailey, they absolutely did great in this match. I was hoping they would go for 20 minutes, like Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe did, and Sasha Banks and Bailey at NXT Brooklyn last year. But they didn't, and that kind of disappointed me a bit. But Asuka and Bailey, they were great in this match. Like Asuka was the psychotic face, but acting like a heel, and Bailey was the never say die attitude. And they keep trying to make her look like the underdog, but it was more like Dolph Ziggler, like she can't say no, she can't back down, she doesn't want to say die, she doesn't want to stay down. That was really the never say die attitude instead of the underdog attitude. But along with that, Asuka and Bailey, Asuka was reversing had every counter measurement to Bailey's attacks, and I was really thinking Bailey was going to change up her strategy since Asuka clearly knows it, but Bailey didn't, and there were times it looked like Asuka was going to just dominate Bailey, and Bailey would get a couple of shots in, but ultimately dominate, like Brock Lesnar and John Cena or Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in a NXT TakeOver rival. But they never did that, so sorry. But they never did that. So Bailey gets one final destructive match out of this. Like she gets one last stand and gets kicked in the head and like, ow, that's got hurt. Like at times I thought they actually broke her nose when Asuka kicked her there in the nose. So I was worried about that. But I was glad she was all right. And then after the match, after Asuka retains her women's title, everyone rose up and gave her a standing ovation, and she hugged the other members of the Four Horsewomen. And like I was expecting them to say "See ya Monday" or "See ya Tuesday." Like I kept thinking SmackDown was on Thursday or Friday still, but "See ya Tuesday" thing. Like, I thought sure there'd be a split audience chanting, "See ya Monday, see ya Tuesday," because we don't know where Bailey's going to go, but from reports, it seems to indicate she's going to go to Raw because there's rumors going on that they want to do Bailey versus Sasha Banks at WrestleMania next year, which will be awesome. Now we just need to get a Hell in a Cell match out of them, and it will be then Sasha's bucket list will be complete. Or was it Bailey's bucket list? But ultimately, this is the end of an era, pretty much. Like all four horsewomen are moving up to the main roster. Sasha Banks is on Raw, Charlotte's on Raw, Becky Lynch is on SmackDown, and now Bayley is most likely heading to Raw, which begs the question why wasn't Becky Lynch on Raw? Because they could have saved a four horsewoman match at WrestleMania next year, which will also be awesome when they eventually cross paths. All four of them, like they did at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. I think that was that Fatal 4-Way. But I couldn't wait for that, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens. So now we get to the main event. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe. Um, we get this spectacular entrance for Shinsuke Nakamura, and Samoa Joe gets a Goldberg-like entrance, like he's being followed by security power, where Goldberg just ignores their presence. Samoa Joe just shoves one to the wall. That gave okay, so basically Goldberg was a heel mentality. That's what I'm thinking at. And Shinsuke Nakamura gets this violinist to play his music, and which was awesome, and everything was like his entrance is just flashy and very epilepsy possibly. Thank God I don't have that, and I will feel sorry for anyone who had to experience that. They should give a warning before Shinsuke Nakamura shows up because it could potentially impact them later down the road. Hope not, at least. So be careful out there. But Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, they had the second best match of the night. Asuka versus Bayley was the second best, and the Revival versus Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa was the first best. Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Samoa Joe, which somewhat surprised me, like considering Shinsuke Nakamura was being built up, defeating all the former NXT champions, along with some of the top TNA stars at two NXT takeovers and at the NXT episode taped. I was not really surprised that he won, but I was a little bit to an extent because Samoa Joe's reign was like really short to me at least. Well, it's the second shortest most likely. The first shortest goes to Sami Zayn, who only had the title for at least a good less than 2 months. I really wanted to see him have a long reign. Oh well. So, oh, and speaking of Sami Zayn, he's on the kickoff at SummerSlam. This speaks volumes of how Vince McMahon looks at NXT stars, including Kevin Dunn. Mostly. But Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, they went ahead and killed it out there. Like, it was hard to follow up the Revival and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, but they did their best. And Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, like, they were like Samoa Joe was the beast of NXT, and Shinsuke Nakamura is this rising star. Like, they don't make him an underdog in this case. They make him more like the rising star that's gaining momentum, that's becoming a tidal wave, and Samoa Joe's just this beast that he has to go through in order to take the crown. So I was glad they refreshed something that wasn't an underdog story, and they made it a lot different in NXT. So I was glad about that. And Shinsuke Nakamura, like I said, gets the victory, becomes NXT champion. Oh, and speaking of Japanese wrestlers, Austin Aries afterwards is attacked by Hideo Itami, who does the GTS, which was awesome. But it didn't have the crowd effect that I was hoping for. I was expecting a louder pop from the audience, and probably at least one idiot screaming CM Punk because CM Punk made it mainstream, even though Hideo Itami was the one that created it accordingly. So Shinsuke Nakamura may have also broken the jaw of Samoa Joe. Like, after the first kick, like, they kept saying, oh, Samoa Joe's jaw might be broken, and then after the second kick and after he win the match, we see the referee hold up the dreaded X sign on it with his arms, and the officials come down to check on him, and I'm like, okay, either Shinsuke dislocated it or broke it. Like, that's the only two things that could have happened from the jaw regarding Samoa Joe's jaw. So it'd be a weird way to go out. Like, not like the bad weird, more like the wow, his reign ends and he gets injured. Like, where have I heard this before? His reign at the top. It's like Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, which I still call bullshit to this day. And I'll talk about that in a way future video. But ultimately, I can't wait what Shinsuke Nakamura is going to do. I can't wait what Austin Aries is going to do with Hideo Itami. I don't know what the Revival are going to do. I don't know what Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa are going to do. Or what's going to happen with Ember Moon. But we know Bayley's most likely leaving after tonight. Maybe do one more episode, maybe with Ember Moon, and then afterwards be done. So Asuka is going to do something big. I hope she fights Ember Moon because two psychotic characters in the ring can make for disaster most likely. But I did hear that Ty Dillinger. But back to Ty Dillinger, why I was surprised he wasn't on the show. Turns out he was on a taped episode for next week when he defeats Wesley Blake. So like, why didn't they have him lose to Bobby Roode? But okay, at least he won a match in Brooklyn, just not on the show, which was still weird for me. So it seems Almaz might be the replacement for Ty Dillinger when he gets a big push, maybe, perhaps. We'll not know, but we'll know later down the road most likely. So NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 was a great show. I can't wait for next year and for next year's TakeOver Brooklyn. And I'm starting to notice one pattern here. Like when Asuka beat Bailey, it was already 10 o'clock, which was the deadline for the show to end. And if this was on pay per view, it would have ended there. But since this is on WWE's own network, they can go as long as they want. So they went above and beyond 38 minutes past 10, and like I'm thinking like, are they gonna do this again for next year at Brooklyn? Because that would be an awesome trend. And I was surprised they didn't mention that in the commentary, whereas Vince likes to go 20 minutes below 11 during the pay-per-views, and Raw likes to go above 11. So, yeah, I was a little that makes the formula really different for NXT. So those are my thoughts on NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to do for more.